All right, so in this installment, we are going to now get the lift kit fitted onto this JT. We went with Rusty's Offroad kit on this one, as if that's a big shocker to all of you that follow us. I'm a big fan of his control arms and track bars. I just really like them. They're pretty sweet. The shocks, the RX-800s that we're going with this, they're made by Ebach. They're pretty sweet shocks. I like the fact they got billet ends, nitride coated shafts. They're just really good quality stuff. Instead of all the little stamped steel sleeves and crap you're typically see with most of these shocks these days, they're all billet. His new shock selection is, he stepped it up big time with the quality, and I think partnering with Ebach was a great move for him. So let's see, what does this box say we got here? This box here says we've got rear lower arms, adjustable, so we can dial this suspension into work properly. Super nice arms, got a flex joint on one end, it's got rubber bushing on the other, so we can isolate a little bit of the suspension from the chassis. I like running a combo joint like this for that reason, especially for people that aren't worried about maximum articulation or anything of that nature. For someone that's going to do a little bit of mall crawling, should we say, and trail riding and light off-roading and stuff of that nature. Running a joint like this that has a rubber bushing on one end and a flex joint on the other, it allows you a large amount of misalignment, and it still keeps it isolated from the chassis to help out a little bit of the vibrations. It's just a good compromise for something that's not going to be really radical. We've been running on our JL. We've driven all over the country. I've never had my suspension bind up yet. So a lot of these companies will tout their super high misalignment, and that their arms are so much better because they have such a high degree of misalignment. And I'll respond to that with, that's cute on paper, but I don't like replacing products all the time. And I think a lot of the companies out there that are using high misalignment, especially Heim joint type joints, they just don't hold up in our climate. I would never sell it to a customer of mine. I think this is a good compromise. These flex joints are much like the Curry joint, which is a real good product. And we got some front JL lower control arms, which will allow us to dial in our caster nicely. Some companies are offering track bar brackets and all sorts of other crap. Not a big fan. I really just prefer to have track bars, because that way you can dial your suspension in properly. But on these JLs and JTs, if you don't do an adjustable lower control arm, you're just never going to get your caster back. You're never going to get to drive as good as it should. I'm not saying you're going to die. I'm not saying you absolutely have to have lower control arms and dial in your caster. But if you want to drive appropriately, you're going to spend $20, $30, $40, $50,000 on a brand new one. That's a couple $100 some lower control arms. If you want to be really cheap about it, you can do some geometry correction brackets. I'm not a big fan of those. I don't understand why anybody would want to run geometry correction brackets and basically lower the arm down so that you can fix your caster issues, but in the process lose all that ground clearance. I think it's kind of a cheap band-aid. I'm not a big fan of cheap band-aids. These cost like a couple $100, $220, $229, something like that. So for the simple cost of $200, you can actually make your $50,000 Jeep drive nice. I'd choose that any day. My only complaint about Rusty's Offroad track bars, they are so well packaged, they're actually a pain in the butt to get out of the box. I don't bother pulling the staples anymore, I just cut the box. Prior to filming this, I changed my razor blade. These boxes can piss me off sometimes. But that being said, I've never had a damaged track bar in shipping yet. So as much as I want to complain, I guess it could be worse. Look at that. That's actually some pretty good plastic. Man, look at that. We'll have to compare that to the stock when we get it out. His track bars are known for being quite a bit bigger and thicker than the stock. stock track bars on these. We've cut a couple apart, real thin wall tubing. You start flexing the suspension really good, or even hitting potholes, all sorts of stuff, you can actually see the track bars bend and deflect. So running his track bars is nice. We don't have those problems with that at all. Especially in the front when death wall is so prevalent. Biggest thing we see with all these JLs and JTs is that if you put good track bars and good steering on them, make sure your caster's dialed in right, you can pretty much fix all your problems just by having that. I'm not saying everyone. Some people have some gearbox issues and some other stuff, but for the most part, a good quality steering kit, some good track bars, some good control arms, so you can actually get your stuff dialed in, makes a big difference. Boy, that is a nice beastie track bar. I'm gonna move this over here. We're gonna unbox us some super fancy shocks. For an off-the-shelf type of shock, these RX800s provide a lot of bang for your buck. Like I said, they got nitride coated shafts, they got billet ends on them. They're made by e-box, so you're not buying Chinese crap. There's a lot of people out there that are making shocks, but you'd be surprised how much overlap there is amongst the companies. So these are pretty sweet. I'll unbox the rest later. So my first piece of advice, cut the zip tie, throw the zip tie away. Pull the boot down, and get rid of the boot. There is a reason for that. Why, you might ask? Two reasons. One, the boots never really stay on very well. Number two, all that boot's gonna do is it completely seals it. So any dirt, debris, grime, dust, sand, anything, water, it's gonna get in there. Problem is you can't wash it to get it back out. It's all gonna sit on the shock shaft. It's just gonna rot it out and just destroy it and ruin it. I always take the boots off. I pretty much figure my customers don't have a say on that, because if something goes wrong and they want me to warranty it, and it's all rusted out, kind of not really a warranty issue at that point. So help alleviate that. If it's bare like that, it's exposed, it comes nitride coated, it's got the billet ends on it. It just kind of makes that no longer an issue. And there's other companies out there like Metal Cloak. They've got some plastic sleeves on their, the plastic sleeves they got on there. Shocks are known to bind up if you don't outboard the shocks. And we cut those off, throw them away too. That boot was on there. Why is my brand new blade not sharp? Because it's not the brand new blade. Minor details, right? All right, we're pretty much unboxed. I think we got some minor goodies in another box here. We are not doing springs on this kit. We are doing spacers for two reasons. One, this gentleman's not going to be doing any hardcore off-road. Two, most of the spring manufacturers, in my opinion, don't have good springs for the JT yet. I know Rusty is still working with e-box to get his springs dialed in perfectly. I don't want to lose this customer's tow rating, so we are going to go with spacers for now. I'm sure at some time we might come back in and maybe put springs in it, but if you're doing hardcore, there's nothing wrong with spacers. As long as you're putting the rest of the parts in here to make it a proper lift kit. You're going to dial in your caster with your arms, you're going to center your axle with the track bars, put some good shocks on there. We've got nice sway bar links. These are all made in Rusty's. Track bar support brace. So these track bar mounts in the frames, they work. For the most part, they're probably okay. It's a very, very cheap upgrade that we install on every lift kit that allows you to beef up that frame mounting position. Some of the early JLs had some weld issues. And I say that was probably a very select few that actually affected. It's just a really good thing. It's been out since the JKs. They've been offered for a long time. A couple brake line extensions. And then this customer gets some fancy stickers too. Fancy stickers. They charge extra for those. No, they don't. Okay,
Whoa. I have to set this one up. This is not recording it. You're gonna have to do it again now. It's not fucking recording. Connect. Go. Easy, Judge Judy.